Welcome to the Live Your Adventure podcast, a place for stories, ideas, and conversations that challenge you to live with intention and create an adventure that's truly your own. Let's go.
Cool. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Live Your Adventure podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hand. Today, I'm here with Wade Ellett. Wade is an author, an adventurer. We're on different sides of the country somewhat. I'm here in Maine, and Wade's over in South Dakota. Welcome to the podcast, Wade.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. So the episode today is titled The Stories We Tell Ourselves. And so it's really all about what do we choose to tell people? Do we tell people the things that go perfect? Or do we tell them about the things that go poorly? Do we fear telling people some things and not others? And so we'll see where this goes throughout the conversation. But I guess I want to start off, Wade, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So like you said, I live in South Dakota, Rapid City. So I'm right in the Black Hills area, and my wife and I have lived here since 2018. I grew up in sort of central Illinois, though, which is a much different environment, very flat. The highest point in Illinois is literally a mound. I think it's St. Charles Mound, maybe. So very, very different environment. But I grew up in the Boy Scouts and running around in cornfields, camping, hiking, that sort of stuff. And then, grew up, so to speak, and was doing kind of many adventures in college. And then I got serious in grad school. I've been to grad school twice. And the first time I was very serious and a little less adventuring. And then went to grad school second time, where I met the woman who's now my wife, and we ended up moving to the Quad Cities, which is right there on the Illinois-Iowa border and in the northwestern part of Illinois. And I mention that because at that point in time, I had gotten a 3-year contract at a corporate archive, doing a job I really enjoyed. My wife was following some of her goals. It was great. Everything was a really good life for that stage of where we were. And we were very unsatisfied. And we kind of figured out that what was missing was that adventure component. And that's kind of been a guiding principle for us ever since. That would have been about 2015. And that's when I kicked off my website, intrepiddaily.com. And the goal was essentially, I wanted to get back into all these things I'd done throughout my life. And I wanted to drag everybody I could with me. So at the time, the way I said it was, it's kind of like Couch to 5K, but for adventuring. So camping, hiking, backpacking, that sort of stuff. And if you had told me then that I would still be playing on that website a decade later, I don't know what I would have thought. But here I am still kicking on it.
This is cool. So I started Hand Adventures in the same time, 2015, as you started your website component. And how we met was I stumbled across Intrepid Daily online. I can't remember what led me there, but then I just kind of reached out. So tell us a little bit about what is the goal of Intrepid Daily, and what's your postings and emails all about?
Absolutely. So as you can imagine, over 10 years, things have evolved. When I started, I was very much so emulating a lot of the adventure and outdoor recreation blogs that I was reading. So there's a lot of trail guides and how-tos and advice things. And I see a lot of value in those things. But over the years, I've noticed there's just so many of them. And I think, well, what can I add to a trail guide, right? Like how to hike Old Baldy Trail. There's so many of them. I'm not adding value by doing, the 48th version of this trail guide. So it's really transitioned in the last few years, especially to more of what I would refer to as adventure philosophy. And how can I help people who want to improve their lives through the avenue of adventuring, trying new things, taking on new challenges? If somebody is already living that hashtag van life and free soloing things, they might like something I'm writing, but they're not coming to me for that level of advice. But if somebody is essentially doing the same thing I'm doing in life, right? Like I have a full-time job, I have a toddler, I have a mortgage, a wife, crazy dogs, right? I'm doing the normal guy stuff, but I'm also trying to lead the adventure life. So what I want to do is help people who, right, like, like I don't want to quit my job and go live in a van or be a digital nomad, but I also want to get out there and play outside. How can I make those two things work together? And that's kind of, I guess you could say, is my niche.
Cool. So it's very, very complementary, very similar to some of the stuff we're doing in really getting folks to challenge themselves. My favorite component is I strongly believe that comfort is the enemy. I was interviewing some folks for a recent podcast release, and one of the gentlemen's response to that is, we all need to be a little uncomfortable. And that was such a cool way of wording it, just kind of nonchalant. We all need to be uncomfortable. And I think too many people, they strive for so many years to find comfort, and comfort oftentimes is sitting back on the couch with another beer, watching TV. It's not getting out and engaging. And it doesn't have to be going outside. It might be. It might be taking up a new hobby. It could be anything. For me, years ago, I took on dance, which was the most hard thing I ever did in my life. So the comfort component of it, where does that play for you? For me, it's very seductive.
So I have a very, I shouldn't say very different, but I do have a different view of comfort and discomfort. For me, it's really about balance. Have you ever heard, I think the term is risk homeostasis, which is a very technical term, right? So we as humans essentially always take on the same amount of risk. And I view comfort and discomfort in a similar way. So to me, right, I love a comfortable bed. I love sleeping comfortably, Steve. Well, like when I'm out camping, I'm not trying to rough it at the end of the day. I'm trying to sleep as comfortably as possible. And so for me, how this works is that by embracing a certain level of comfort in one area of my life, it lets me push into a greater area of discomfort elsewhere. And I think sleep's a perfect example because it is the most rejuvenating thing. I literally went to my physician for like a wellness appointment not long ago, and he said it is, in his opinion, the number one pillar of our health and wellness. So how this, and I think, then I got, sorry, my train of thought derailed just a little bit there, but for me, it's like this, right? By taking on a level of comfort, like I said, it lets me push into greater areas of discomfort and really push myself to take on new challenges. And on the flip side, it also exists in such a way that by embracing those discomforts, I then appreciate and have such gratitude for the things that are those real luxuries, honestly. I mean, is there anything better than that hot shower, that first hot shower coming back from, a week out where you've been cold and it's been rainy and, you're just mucky and muggy, or like that first night back in your own bed? So for me, it's that balance. But I think the core components have to be embracing the comfort with gratitude, and then using that as a mechanism to embrace discomfort and take on those challenges, because that's where the growth happens for all of us, I think.
Oh, yeah, balance is key, and I'm glad you went down that path, because I think of last year, my big trip early in the year was 3 weeks of fishing on the coast of Florida. My best friend and I, we started in Amelia Island and went all the way down the East Coast, the Keys,
It's beautiful,
and all the way back up to, and we ended up in Mobile, Alabama before we were done. And it was a phenomenal trip. But the nights that we slept poorly, the next days were terrible. The nights where we got a great night's sleep, it was peaceful, or there was a little noise in the night because we were camping. There was a couple hotel rooms we stayed in where the beds were hard as rocks, and it was like, oh, geez, I wish we'd stayed in the tent that night.
Yeah, sometimes the hotel rooms are worse, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So another component is challenge. It's all, so if comfort can be the enemy, if we don't have the right balance, the next component is we have to challenge ourselves. We have to push ourselves to do something we haven't done before. And I know you've touched on some of that in some of your writings over the years in Intrepid Daily.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and again, I write for more of a outdoor recreation viewpoint, but regardless, I think of where they're looking to grow in their lives. There's the risk of not pushing yourself. So like you said, I'm on the couch every day. I'm Netflixing, I'm binge watching, I'm going to bed. The next day I'm doing it again. The next day I'm doing it again. And then I think there's a danger on the other side of, okay, I want to run an ultra marathon. So I want to run a 50 miler. I haven't run in 10 years. Like, okay, well, I'll just go out and pound the pavement. It's like, well, no, you have to once again find that balance. So what's the step you're going to take? But I think what happens to a lot of people, and I know it's happened to me. I mean, so I say this without judgment. To look at that goal, it gets so paralyzing. It's so paralyzing to see this big goal, whether it's, running that ultra marathon, through hiking the Appalachian Trail, summiting Everest, or whatever it could be. Those are just huge goals, and it's so easy to look at them and think, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I think that's what keeps a lot of people on that couch, is that the goal seems so overwhelming and oh, I could never do that. I'm too old, or I don't have the money, or any of these other limitations that when you get down to it, I always like to encourage people to embrace the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
What is the bare minimum you can do today to take you towards that goal? And I think that bare minimum achieves two things. The first thing is it forces you to break that huge monumental goal into a tiny piece. And then you see that this goal is not just one big thing. It's a bunch of tiny pieces. It's the whole, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? But the other piece is that I consider it an identity builder. So with each one of those individual pieces, they're so small that it's hard not to complete them. For example, as a writer, my goal is I write every day. And my bare minimum is I write 50 words every day. The worst, my house could blow up. I could be in the hospital. I'm writing 50 words that day. Now, most days I write more than 50 words.
Mm-hmm.
But even if everything goes wrong and I feel awful, I know that I'm writing that 50 words, and it allows me internally to say, I'm a writer. I'm a writer because I write every day. And then when you look at that, well, it's a lot easier to build 2,000 words when you're consistently writing every day. And it's the same thing with training for that race, or preparing for Everest, or training to do a through hike. when you start biting off those small pieces, okay, like, well, I've never backpacked before. I've never hiked before. Well, I should probably do a day hike and see if I even like it. So it's breaking. It's a combination of wanting that challenge, that big piece, but being able to break it down into those pieces that really, in my opinion, make it part of a lifestyle. And I think that's the real key component, is that it becomes part of just who you are and the way you live your life.
Cool. And one thing that I really latched onto there that you said was you started talking about limitations early on. And a lot of people find and create artificial limitations for themselves. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I'm not healthy enough. The list goes on and on and on. I don't have a knife. I don't have a four-wheel drive that can keep up with the other folks. And it's just putting that aside for a minute and saying, but what can I do? Where can I start? And most of the time, I do a lot of overlanding in the Northeast, and you could show up with the most bare bones stock vehicle, four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive at least, but you don't need all the gear, because 90% of the people that are going do have all the gear, and they will lend you or show you how to use or whatever, everything you might need. And it makes it so easy to start. But then also the limitation, I don't know how to write. Well, if you write 50 words a day, like you were throwing out there, you're going to learn how to write pretty quickly, weeks or months maybe. But what works, what doesn't work, the only way you figure it out is to actually try it.
I agree with you 100%. One of the things that I had a mentor when I was a teenager, and one of the things that he would, when I would say I can't, or I'm not ready, or I don't know how, he would say, the only limitations are self-imposed.
Right.
Now, the reality is there, like, limits exist, right? But most of the things that, let me rephrase, most of the time, the person or the thing that's saying no is us.
Right.
You know, and the example of overlanding is actually brilliant, because I had a very decent truck that ended up catching fire a couple years ago. It was lemon. The truck was lemon flavored, Steve, and so it had some mechanical issues. But so right now I'm doing my adventuring in a 2018 all-wheel drive Kia Sorento. This is not a vehicle that anyone is looking at and saying, this is an adventure mobile. This guy's doing it in this. Now, I am not rock crawling. I am not going crazy, but it will handle Forest Service roads just fine. You know, we got a trailer hitch basket. I hunted out of that vehicle last year. I've slept out of that vehicle. It comes down to doing what you can with what you have, where you're at right now. And, you know, I have a toddler. He just turned 4 in March. And like every little kid, you know, he'll try something and it's hard. And he'll say, I can't do it. And the thing I always come back to is, what do we say? And he'll go, yes, I can. I say, oh, you got to say it like you mean it. And he's like, yes, I can. And listen, I'm as guilty as anyone of getting frustrated in the moment, being like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't like this. I can't do it. Yes, I can. You know. So, like I said, that example just resonated with me. I'm literally writing a piece that's based on this concept of just do what you can with what you got. That's about the Kia Sorento situation. You know, like,
nice.
Just go out. You know, I used to do this in a Chevy Impala, you know, like a 2001 Chevy Impala. Like, I used to camp out of that. I mean, it's doable.
It works.
And I think people get hung up, and I don't think social media is this evil thing, but I think it's very easy to let things like jealousy and envy creep in when you're looking at other people's highlight reels and all you see is your behind the scenes problems and technical difficulties.
Yeah,
And that leads people to think, oh, I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, no problem, no problem. I was going to say in the overlanding space, one of the videos I was watching recently was about a trip down in South America, and these guys had everything you can imagine on their vehicles. I think there was 2 vehicles. They were fully kitted out, lockers and the best tires and everything. And they just spent forever getting up this slippery hill. And all of a sudden, a Toyota Corolla comes flying through, and they hit the spot where no one could move. And 3 guys jumped out of the car and got behind it and started pushing. And the Toyota Corolla went by them, and they're sitting there going, "Huh? How much money do we have tied up in these vehicles?" And a Toyota Corolla just went by them.
And listen, absolutely, like gear can improve the situation, and I'm a big proponent of safety gear.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, if you have a pair of sneakers and a backpack, you can hit a trail. And if you have $150, I can help you get situated in such a way that you can go backpacking for the first time. It will not be the lap of luxury. It will not be ultralight gear, but it will get you out there and doing the stuff. And we are really in a very consumer driven society, which I'm sure you've seen this too. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned with the overlanders, well, I've got to have the best of everything. It's like, well, listen, you improve where you can, but don't wait to start until you have all the stuff. If you wait until you have all the gear, until you feel ready, until conditions are perfect, you will never start. And I've seen it 100 times. I've been guilty of it myself. And those limitations, those are, in fact, one of those stories we tell ourselves. The I can't is just a story we're telling ourselves. That what we need to do is tell the story of I can, and we need to examine the story of how can I.
So you went exactly where I wanted to go. I was wanting to
perfect.
Weave back to the storyteller line per se. So I always get caught up with what do people tell for stories, and what do they choose to tell the story about. And so I'm always like, people don't typically tell the story of, oh, it was a bright sunny day and everything was perfect. It's more like, oh my word, the truck almost went down that hill and we had to work for 10 hours to get out of there. Or I thought we was going to die when the thunderstorm came up on top of the mountain we were hiking. So what are your thoughts on what people choose to tell about?
I think it's fascinating the way storytelling works. I can remember, I have a very distinct memory of the situation and the individual, but his name is gone. But when my wife and I were living in the Quad Cities, we went out one night with a bunch of people, and one of them brought, I think, a date or maybe just a guy they knew, and he was a talker. And he had every story under the sun. He had been snowboarding on these epic peaks, and he had been skydiving, and he had done MMA fighting, and he had been to the Amazon, and so on and so forth. And something about him just bugged me, and I couldn't figure it out. Why don't I like this guy? Is it jealousy? Well, yeah, probably there's some of that. But then I realized, the reason I don't like this guy is because anytime somebody would try and engage him and explore these conversations or share one of their experiences, it was just like, no, I got something to top that. He was a one-upper. He didn't care about the experiences he was having. In fact, he said it. He said, I will go for any experience that gives me a good story. Okay. Now, I love a good story, but the point of a story is connection. And so if you are out there having an experience and the only thing you're thinking about is how you're going to use that experience to talk to people and impress people. You're not having an experience. You're just getting fodder for your ego. And we've all done it. I'm guilty of it. Every bad thing I have to say about somebody, I'm guilty of too. I'll be the first to admit it. But to me, story is all about connection. That's what separates, even a good podcast from a podcast where you're like, these people are interesting, but for some reason I don't want to listen. And I can remember when I started my website, I very much so wanted to position myself as an expert. And so I'm sure that if I were to dig back to a decade ago, some of that material would make me roll my eyes and go, oh my gosh, kid, what are you doing? Whereas now I'm very comfortable with myself. I'm very comfortable with myself as a writer and as a person. And I'm very capable now of being like, man, I messed up. I shouldn't have done that. This was type 3 fun. This was something I shouldn't have done. I'm not looking back on it fondly. But to me, that's what the story is all about, is how can I connect with people? And sometimes that story is instructive. I'm helping somebody learn something. Sometimes that story is humbling. It allows me to say, I'm not as good as I thought I was. That happens more than I care to admit right now, but that's the reality. And sometimes it's just fun. And it's just a way for people to bond over shared experiences, shared stories. I've listened to your podcast episodes where you're essentially laughing with somebody over an experience. And that's the good stuff, Steve. Like when you can look back at these experiences and tell that story, and the people that you're with are laughing, and then there's maybe a new person in the group, and you're like, oh, we got to tell you what Jim did, because you're not going to believe it. That's the good stuff of a story. That's stripping that ego piece out of it. And that's where the experience part of it comes in, where that connection to people and the connection to that experience really shines, in my opinion.
Yeah, loving that. So I think of stories in two veins. One, I typically tell stories when I'm around a person that was part of that story. And it's usually, if you're just alone with that person, you're probably not. But if you're with a group of 5 or 6 people and one of the other people that was part of that experience was there, it totally changes what it's about and how you're telling it. And you riff off of each other.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It becomes, so that's one that I really like. The other is if you can use a story as an educational piece. Let me tell you about the day I screwed up, and this is what happened, and I will never do that again. Whatever. Those are the two that I like. If it's, oh, you did this, well, I did that. Those I've caught myself, as you said, I've caught myself doing it over the years here and there, but I definitely try not to go there.
Same, but like I said, we all do it, and for me, there's always a challenge too. And this, Steve, tell me if this happens to you. Because we're both people that are out there trying to do these fun things, have these adventures, but we're also people who are creating content that connects and relates to those things. And so it is sometimes a challenge for me when I'm out there. I have to remind myself, think about the story piece of this later. And right now, just be in the moment. Like at the end of the day, when I'm backpacking or doing whatever, I pull out the trail journal, write some notes, jot them down. That's great. But in this moment, just be part of this moment, really be present for it. And it's hard to strike that balance as somebody that's always thinking from a storyteller perspective. But I think it's really important to kind of prevent these experiences from being just fodder for something that I'm writing about. The reality is they're going to be fodder for something I'm writing about. but I don't want to go out there and do things just for the sake of writing about them. I want to go out and do things that I love, that are meaningful to me, that hopefully teach me a lesson and humble me. And then I want to be able to use that story to connect to people.
One of the things that ties to that is like, we're going on a trip here shortly, and we want to tell some stories about that. And some of it's going to be video content, but we're really conscious of, I can't script that. If I script that, it's going to come across just wrong. It's not going to succeed. So it's like, how do I capture it, but make it be in the moment, make it part of the experience, et cetera. And that's why you see these cameras start running all the time sometimes, if you can. Yeah. And point of view cameras can be so handy that thing's just sitting there running, and it's like, oh, that just had happened. Please tell me it got caught on camera, because that is the special moment that mattered, versus, oh, I got to capture us doing this, which isn't really an experience.
100%. And I work with this somewhat in my real life job, where I'm part of a creative team, and I handle copy, but I also help with some of this video work, and a lot of people, they want these scripts. And I will tell you, I've been doing this for a while for a couple different organizations, and when you have a script, it always comes off as somebody reading it. Well, it's very important that we do this, because what works so much better, and I don't know how this is going to pan out for your content, but what works so much better is to just ask them the questions about what's important and why in the moment. And this podcast is a great example. Like, you didn't hand me a script and say, this is what we're going to talk about. You said, well, let's talk.
Yeah.
And if you get the right people going, and you ask the right questions, they'll tell you everything they're passionate about. They will go and go and go. And sometimes it's hard, because now you have, 2 hours worth of footage and 5 minutes to fill. And, but the value is huge when you look at how significantly improved the material you get is when you can just naturally tap into those people's passion.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to move us along. We could keep going on a lot.
I know. I'm enjoying the conversation.
This is great.
This is great.
Yes. And this is the first time, just to get it clear with folks, we've never spoken until about 41 minutes ago. This is 32 minutes into this podcast. So this is totally off the cuff. You have written a book. I think you've written a couple, but you had an online edition or a digital edition, and now you've got a new book called The New Adventurer's Handbook. So start wherever you want. Tell me a little bit about the first endeavor or the release of this book, wherever you want to go.
Yeah, to give you a little backstory, when not long after I started my website, I did have some people reach out to me and say, like, hey, like, how do you plan something? I've never done this. And so I wrote a little ebook. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Oh, Adventure Ready is what it's called. And I just give it away for free when people sign up for my email newsletter. It's still available for free. If people sign up to my newsletter, it gets sent to them, I think, usually the same day, unless there's a problem with the mail servers. But and I think it's a handy little resource. And then over the years, I've continued to get questions where people want a little bit more detail. And I've had some people ask me, like, oh, hey, can I pay you to plan a trip for me? And, there's this one part of my brain that's like, oh, that would be like a very cool job. But I don't know that I want that to be my job either. And I see significant value in the process of planning and preparing for and executing the adventure on their own.
I was reading your book over the last week, and I saw that phrase in there about somebody offering to have you plan. And my immediate, before I read the next sentence, I was like, heck no, I don't want somebody planning my trip. I may want to reach out to somebody with some questions here and there.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. And so I started the New Adventurers Handbook with the idea that it would be kind of an extension of that ebook. And then it just kept going and going and going and going. And so it became its own thing. And I think it was maybe August of last year that it went live on Amazon and in print and then on Kindle. No audiobook yet, but if anybody is interested in voicing it, we can talk. And so it's, in my opinion, pretty comprehensive. It is, I like to refer to it as a toolkit. It's a tool belt. It's got a bunch of different tools. And if you read this from start to finish, you are going to be pretty well positioned to go out, plan, prepare for, budget, execute an adventure. And you probably aren't going to need every single tool in this toolkit for every single adventure that you go on. But with this toolkit, there are very few things that a person's not going to be able to plan and execute. And of course, things are always changing. You know, there's a bit on AI in there that I went in very last minute almost, because I thought, oh my gosh, like people are using this to plan things now. And when I experimented with AI when I heard about this to kind of plan a trip, I was like, oh gosh, this is bad. It's inventing trails and campgrounds and roads that don't exist. So you got to be real careful in that world. But so yeah, it's really comprehensive. I've had some people ask me, you know, will this help me do XYZ? You know, one guy wants to, you know, I poke fun at this and not in a mean-spirited way, but he wants to live in a van and be a digital nomad. And I said, well, no, this book is not going to help you do that specifically. I don't know anything about vans. I don't know anything about that. But if you're going to be out there living on the road and there's things you want to do, this will help you figure those things out.
Yeah, as I haven't finished. I've been reading through, and it's certainly one that I'm looking at. I know some folks that they basically went to school, they went to college, they've got their job. Their idea of adventure is walking down a city street. They don't go off and do anything that is per se risky. And so this would be perfect for them. If they decided, hey, we want to go camping in the White Mountains, this would be perfect for them to read through, and it would open their eyes in a lot of places. The next phase of person's going to look at it and go, the first 7 or 8 chapters is going to be like, yeah, got that. Don't need this. Yeah. And then they're going to get to something they're like, ooh, hadn't thought of that before. And so I've been reading each chapter just so I want to get the whole flavor, but it's very much a tool belt, like you mentioned. There's no adventure that's cookie cutter. There's no person. I mean, every single one of us has had different experiences and is going to bring something different to the table. That's why if you go on an adventure as part of a team, somebody is the better cook. They're going to be the cook, and somebody's the better with logistics, and they're going to do all the logistical components, and somebody knows first aid, and so they're going to be your designated person to handle any medical type of things that might happen. So I really, so far, I found this to be quite interesting. How's I mean, what do you get for reporting or anything, and how's the sales and stuff for the book going?
Well, I mean, it's not a bestseller yet, but there are some sales or there are some sales, and I mean, to be honest, my expectation is not that I'm going to quit my job and live off the proceeds of this book. It really is a labor of love, and it really stems from that desire to help people get out there and lead the life that they want to lead. You mentioned the folks that that their concept of adventure is maybe walking down a city street, and maybe those folks want to do more, but they're intimidated.
Yes.
And so this book is an avenue for them to explore what's possible and how to do it safely and in a way that's meaningful. For folks that don't have a lot of money, and listen, I mean, Steve, I don't have a trust fund. Anytime that you post pictures of travel online and tell a story about it, there's always at least one person that says like, "Oh, like it must be nice to be rich."
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm not. I have a day job. I have a 401k and a mortgage and all that, right? Like, I'm not inherently good with money. So even to go on adventures, I've had to learn about budgeting and financial planning, and that's in this book. And if you are new to backpacking, how do you pick out a backpack? How do you know what gear you need? It's in here. So to somebody who's already doing this stuff, and if they were to read this book, I hope they would learn something new. Maybe if nothing else, they'd get a laugh at some of the things that I share about myself. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of funny stuff in there, especially like when you get to the chapter about when things go wrong, that I'm perhaps a little too open about mistakes made, but but there's just things that I think a lot of people don't consider. Like I said, there's a section on when things go wrong. And if you're ready for things to go wrong, which they will, because they always do, you'll be much safer. There's a section on essentially reacclimating to being back into normal life afterwards, which is something that people don't think about. But if you go and you have this experience that strikes you as life-changing, and then you come back and you've got to go to work, it's difficult. But yeah, more than anything, I hope that the people who find this book, it will help them take steps to do those adventures that they want to take and lead the lifestyle that they want to lead.
And so many people are embarrassed, may not be the right word, but they don't dare to come up to somebody and say, "Hey, I haven't done this before and I want to." And for some of those folks, if they see something like this as a resource available to them, I thought it was really cool that way. I'll definitely recommend it to some folks.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've talked to a lot of people in different stages of adventuring. And there are certainly people that know a whole lot more than me and have had experiences that blow mine away. And I learn from them all the time. And in turn, I hope that there are people who are learning from me. And, I've had folks ask me, does this book need to be there? I mean, I didn't need a book. Everybody learns from somebody. Nobody sprung from the womb knowing how to go backpacking and safely treat their water and, find the best hotel or the cheapest hotel, which is frequently not the best, but has its own value.
And everybody learns differently. And you've got to be able to accommodate that. I teach dance. Earlier today, I was teaching a dance lesson, and every student learns differently, and I have to have 3 or 4 approaches to just about everything, every concept that I'm bringing forward, because others, it just totally misses them. I loved your component about things going wrong. One of our previous episodes was about when things get real or get hard.
Yep.
And having the patience and the persistence to work through those things, the patience being the key one. I keep referencing in my just general life. One of the things that I forget the gentleman's name, but it's again from the overlanding space. But it's an older gentleman that is all over Europe and all over Africa. Is like, yeah, when we get stuck, the first thing we do is break out the tea kit and make some hot water and have a cup of tea. And then we look at the issue, and it usually ends up being easier to get out of it than they thought.
I think it was Paul Petzold, the founder of Knowles, who supposedly said, whenever there's an emergency, before you do anything, smoke a cigarette. And sir, I'm not advocating smoking in any way, shape, or form. It's not good for you. Don't.
Right.
But taking that 5 minutes, right? Most emergencies aren't. And if you're capable of separating that feeling of an emergency from what is actually happening in front of you, you're always going to be better off. I can't think of a time in my life where panic has helped.
Right.
But if you have never been in that situation, how would you know that?
Cool. So I'm going to start moving us down the road here to wrap up. We may, as I've said with other guests, I think we could talk forever, but maybe we'll have another episode in the future. I'm going to move to a quote.
Sure.
This one is from Sue Fitzmaurice. And the quote is, "You must go on adventures to find out where you truly belong."
I've never heard that one before. I like that.
Yeah, I've got a library now of quotes that have the word adventure.
Good.
But I really, you must go on adventures to find out where you truly belong. You don't know what you're capable of. If you don't push yourself, if you don't experience adventure, if you don't experience something out of the norm, that's when you realize how you would react. People that get thrown into, don't even have to be an adventure. You could be driving down the road and there's a car accident, and some people don't know what to do, and other people, they just spring into action and they save the day or whatever that might be. And so adventure, experience, unless you go after those things, for me, I totally believe you'll never figure out who you really are. And you won't be able to figure out what stories you're going to tell
That's true.
if you're not going out and experiencing adventure.
No, I think that's so true. And who are you and where do you belong and who are your people? There's a ton of ways to figure those things out, but they all come down to some kind of challenge, right? And I think challenge is at the heart of an adventure, right? It should be fun, hopefully, but no, I like that quote. I think it really resonates with me as well.
Cool. So the question we ask everybody, so you've already heard it before, is, what does adventure mean to you? How do you, or another way of putting it is, how do you define adventure?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, actually, listening to your podcast, because like, I gotta have something good prepared. And when I was listening to when you had Stephen on, and the conversation was kind of adventure is a decision. One of the things, one of the people that I consider a mentor to me used to refer to challenge by choice, and to me that's really at the heart of what adventure is, because there are tons of adventures in life, or challenges in life, I should say, and not all of them are what I would consider an adventure. I deal with a lot of challenges at work, and they certainly improve me and they're valuable, but they're not what I would consider an adventure, because I'm only choosing them for the financial gain of having a job. It's not to say that they're not valuable, but when there's a challenge that you are choosing, that you're looking at this thing and it's going to be hard, but you see the value And despite the fact that you know it's going to be difficult, you are choosing to chase it down. To me, that's at the heart of adventure. An easy beach day is great. It's fun. But is an easy beach day an adventure? To me, it's not. Now, to somebody else, it might be. And I support if that's how they're defining it. Because I think everybody's got to hike their own hike, as it were, run their own race. But everybody's level of challenge is different too. So, to me, I would say challenge by choice is really at the heart of it. Then I got
cool. So, last place I'm going to go, and it's more just informational. You and I, in 3 weeks, maybe 4. I think it's 4 weeks. I'm going to be in your backyard. We land in the Badlands as our first stop, and going to do Sheep's Head Table
nice.
out in that area, Black Hills area, right where you are. So maybe we'll connect when
that would be great. Yeah,
we've got a few days in that area before we head over to Wyoming. So we're doing a circuit between South Dakota, Wyoming, the Tetons, into Yellowstone, and then a little bit of Montana before we head back.
That's going to be a great trip, Steve. You're going to love it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been through that whole area before, but not to just immerse myself into it.
Wonderful.
and dig in. So looking forward to that and being out there, and maybe we'll connect. So any last words for folks, either on adventure in general, what you've got going on, and one thing I didn't ask is I think people can probably look up Intrepid Daily, but website, socials, where can people find Wade Ellett?
Yeah, absolutely. The website is intrepiddaily.com. If they want to hit me up on social, I'm most active on Instagram, and it's intrepid_daily. And feel free to reach out and bug me with questions. I love talking to people about this kind of stuff. Adventure wise, or just, looking at this big thing we call life, again, I'll just emphasize, the number one thing that I think I can impart to people is start now, not later. It's so easy to say, I'll do this when I have more money, when I have more time, when the kids are grown up, when I have a better job. But, none of those things are guaranteed. And when you reach that point of having more money or more time, or the kids have left, you're going to have to start from zero then anyways, when you could start now and build. And there's just no time like the present. So if there's something that you want to do, break it down to its smallest piece and go get it.
Awesome. So that will wrap up this episode. Thank you, Wade, for joining us.
Thank you, Steve.
Remember, folks, for your next adventure, you've got to define it, you've got to pursue it, and you've got to live it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Live Your Adventure podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button, follow us on social media at Hand Adventures, and for your next adventure, define it, pursue it, and live it.